live stream for the week. I'm going to give just a moment to get live everywhere. All right, here we go. We are live. If you are joining me live, welcome. It is Monday if you're joining in real time, and whenever you're joining, this is the perfect time for you. We are talking today about how to expand your personal brand in 2022. And what I will say is these tips, these mindset shifts, these insights, hey, Nadia, they will apply whenever you are listening to this. And as always, if you're watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, pop me a comment. Let me know you're here. That is how I know that you are here. And I want to interact with you. Tamika, hello. Coach Leah, hello. So we're talking today about how to grow your personal brand in 2022. And I want to also take questions. So if you have questions on this, if you have challenges you're bumping up against, let me know. I'll share a little bit of a backstory that will make me sound pretty old, but I'm at this point in my life, I'm like, it is what it is. So building my personal brand was what really started to change the game for me in sales. And in 2010, that's when I first got into corporate sales. And the sales culture where I was very much the just pound the phones type of culture. And let me know in the comments or give me a heart if you can relate to that. I feel like we've got like a funky angle on Instagram, but we're going to roll with it today. But it was like pound the phones, say this script. It was very much the cold call, like hustle culture. And I very quickly realized that was not what was going to work for me. Not to say I couldn't do it, and I actually got pretty good at it, but I felt like my soul was being sucked dry, if I'm being completely honest. And so I started kind of behind the scenes creating these. Again, this is like back in 2010. So I don't even think Instagram was really much of a thing yet. But I started creating videos that just gave tips to my clients that were meant to be helpful, not even clients, to prospects too, but just like tips that I thought would be helpful with, for people to learn. At the time, I think I was selling digital advertising. So it was like, here's how you optimize your SEO, and here's how you build your brand on social media. And very quickly, leads started pouring in. Now, here's one thing I will say and be very upfront about. It was a different world back then. There was definitely not the saturation that there is now. But for me, I was like, holy moly, there is a much different way to sell and a much more powerful way to sell than just, pounding the phones day in and day out. And so that was part of what inspired me to go into sales coaching for the first time. Hey, Patty, by the way, this was around, I think, 2015. And I was like, there is a more elegant way to generate leads. There is a more elegant way to grow your sales, again, whether you're in sales or you're an entrepreneur. And so that was part of the journey into my coaching business. And so today, what I want to share with you are 3 different things that you can implement now to grow your personal brand. And let me know too in the comments, or give me a heart. Are you focused on this year? Is this a priority for you? Is it not? I've had so many clients in the She Sells community, wanting to launch a podcast, get on bigger stages, find more impactful ways to generate leads. Hey, Christina. And so to me, it was like, this is a very timely conversation. And now I want to get into it first with, you all know, if you've been watching my stuff for any amount of time, thank you for the heart. We can't get into a conversation about this without some mindset work. Okay. So we're going to do some mindset work first on this. Tamika is saying, yes, expanding my brand to get on bigger stages. Yes, you are. I know you are. So yeah, absolutely. So Einstein has a wonderful quote that I think we can use for all areas of our life. And he said, we can't resolve a problem from the same level of consciousness that created the problem. I'll say it again. We can't resolve a problem from the same level of consciousness that created the problem. Now, if you were like, what does that have to do with building my personal brand? Here's where I want to invite you to think differently. And I'm not saying your current personal brand is a problem at all, but if your desire is to grow, if your desire is to get on bigger stages, to generate more inbound leads, to get on bigger podcasts, etc. It is a higher level of consciousness that's going to create the true quantum leap type of result, not just little incremental more of the same. And so I remember this was years ago. I was working with a coach at the time, and I was I was in between things. I actually think I was still under a non-compete where I couldn't even talk sales yet. And so I was kind of like, I was feeling throttled in a lot of ways. I was wanting to grow my brand, but I was feeling throttled. I was feeling like I couldn't really talk about what I wanted to talk about. And so I was putting stuff out there for my brand, but it was all stuff that I was like semi-passionate about because I was trying to toe the lines of my non-compete. Some of you may be able to relate, some of you may not. Either way, she asked me at the time, she was like, Elise, well, what about all the people who are magnetized to your content? And I remember when she said that, I was like, who are you talking about? Who's magnetized? Because I was putting out this stuff. I was feeling kind of lukewarm about it, but there were people, and there were people who were showing up consistently for it. But I remember when she asked me that question, that expanded my level of consciousness, because it was the first time I even thought about it being possible for people to be magnetized to the content I was putting out. And so the consciousness expansion here is key. And this is where I would build from. So there's so many tactical things you can do to build your brand, whether it's, doing more joint lives, launching a podcast, et cetera. And I'm not going to go deep into all the different things today. I think that's a very situational type of thing of where are your people? What sort of content do you enjoy? And what's the fastest path to the result you're looking for? That to me tends to be more of like a one-on-one tactical conversation I typically have with clients. But regardless of the actual how, the foundation that you're going to build from most powerfully is by elevating your level of consciousness. And I would even play with that concept, like check in with yourself and say, if I played with the concept of there are people who are magnetized to me and what I'm putting out, how would that shift things for you? And let me know in the comments if anything shows up for you with that. Hey, Amy, by the way. Oh, hi, Michelle on Facebook. Oh, good. You're speaking at a conference in Miami in June. Amazing. Yes. And so what would be, this would be a good journaling question that you could look at too, is what would the level of consciousness be for the person who has the result that I desire? And you can apply this. Spoiler alert, you can apply this in all areas of your sales and your life. But for your personal brand specifically, what's the level of consciousness of the person who has the result that you want? And are you a match for that level of consciousness, or are you not right now? And another spoiler alert, you're probably not, because you don't have that result yet, but that's okay, right? We've got to first kind of unveil that next level of consciousness and level of thinking about things before we can start to match it. So think about, for the person who has the brand and the inbound leads and the opportunities that you want, is that person super confident in front of the camera? And maybe you're currently like, you're getting really anxious and you're not putting yourself out there and doing live streams. Are they complaining about how few people are watching their stuff? Or are they really grateful that they have so many engaged followers and so many engaged people who are watching their stuff, right? Are they focused on what they can get from putting content out there and from every exchange? Or are they focused on giving and truly serving? And then even down to the tactical of, let's say that you want, you want a podcast with 50,000 downloads a month, right? Well, what's the level of consciousness of someone who has a podcast with 50,000 downloads a month? So how frequently are they putting out content? How good is their podcast? Right? How intentional are they with it? What's their content calendar like? How much service do they provide with this? So really think about that. And again, I like to kind of interweave these inner work principles with the real like business tactical nuts and bolts, because when we when we apply the tactics from the foundation of that heightened level of consciousness, our results are incremental. They grow wildly. It's not incremental. It is the true quantum leap. So what is that level of consciousness of the person who has the personal brand that you want? And then you just check in with no judgment on, okay, so I'm aware that this person who has this result, they're probably, again, I'm just going to play with the podcasting example because that's something I love. It's something a lot of my clients are doing too. They publish their podcast 3 times a week. They go on X number of shows a week to promote it. They're really intentional about their episodes. They get great guests on. They make it easy for the guests to promote. They love sharing, right? They're confident in front of the camera. And then in what ways am I not yet doing that? Again, no judgment, just checking in. And it's like, oh, that's where I get to raise my level of consciousness. So that's really the first step, is expanding, thinking in a bigger box than you're currently letting yourself think in. The second, and this has been a good lesson for me recently, because I was not doing this, not to the extent that I am now, is don't be afraid to go after what you want. In building your brand, don't be afraid to go after what you want. And I'll share an example, and this is a kind of recent personal example. So as I tend to, when I've got an amazing new team member now, her name's Lindsay. Some of you know her, you've interacted with her. We call her the unicorn. She does all things: marketing, client service, operations, press. Like, she's truly a unicorn. She's phenomenal. And I used to do all the pitching of myself for different shows. And I would typically pitch things that I was like, yeah, I pretty much feel like I can get that. And when I brought her on, though, she started pitching stuff that in my mind, I was like, that's 2 years out. That's 5 years out. And what I realized, and we started landing some of it. Like, that was the crazy thing. We started landing some of it. And I realized how much I'd been limiting myself, because we each see ourselves as, probably your view of yourself is probably the least viewpoint of anyone who knows you. And I hope that makes sense the way I'm saying it. What I'm saying is, I think for often the members of this community, we often don't see how amazing we are. Is that fair to say? Or other people will look at you and be like, you've got it all together. You're crushing it. Of course you would go on that podcast. And yet often we can see ourselves as less than. And I'm not trying to make a sweeping blanket statement. I'm just saying, in general, I find the clients I'm working with aren't like egomaniacs out there on a total ego trip. They're actually really, like, they don't see themselves as the incredible, qualified leaders that they are. And so the lesson for me was, gosh, what have I been waiting for? Now, there are certain shows, and part of this too is for you growing your brand, it's get in front of other people's audiences, right? So who already has your audience? And that's why I'm a huge fan of podcast guesting. And I've done other episodes specifically about that. So I'm not going to speak to that today per se, but like there are certain shows that I'm still not going to pitch yet. Like, I have a vision for this, but I know, I mean, look, maybe Oprah will have me on at this point. Like, who knows? All things are possible. And in my mind, in my gut, it is not the right time to pitch that. And I'm okay with that. So there are certain shows that it's like, we're not going to pitch yet. But what came out of that, Michelle, I see you saying, right, so you get this. Yeah. What came out of having Lindsay start pitching me and then landing some of these bigger opportunities, I was like, gosh, I've been holding myself back from a whole nother level of expansion because I was in my own little box. Again, I was in my level of consciousness, and she had a much bigger sense of consciousness of what was possible for our brand right now. And then the third key to building your personal brand is intentionality. Intentionality. So think about, with the content that you put out, with your market, if you've got a marketing calendar, maybe you do, maybe you don't, but check in for the result that you want. Does that level of consciousness, do they have a marketing calendar? Maybe, maybe not, right? But are you checking a box? Like, are you merely checking a box to say, I got it done? Or are you creating from the heart? And with what you're putting out there, with the content you're putting out, would it make you stop your scroll? Would it, if you read it from somebody else, would you say, oh my gosh, I've got to share this. this changed my life, or maybe it just changed my perspective for today, right? And that's good too. Would I want to share this? Would I want to comment on this? Or would I just keep scroll, 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 scroll? Oh, hi, is it Yamiko? I don't know how to pronounce your name. I apologize. Beautiful name, but hi, I'm so glad you're here. And so, um, so with that, there's a great episode of She Sells Radio, episode 146, with my friend, my client, Josh Pitts. You can go back and listen to that. He created this phenomenal brand in the mortgage space called Shred Media. And we do a much deeper dive into creating content that stops the scroll. So you can go listen to that one if you want for more context on this. But I don't know about you, anytime I've checked the box on anything I've created, the results were lackluster, if if at all. The stuff that was truly from the heart, the stuff that was really intentional, the stuff that was like even not the most pretty, not the most perfect, not the most polished, but that was truly from the heart, that's what lands. And so the invitation, I think, for everything we do for the next level of consciousness that I think we're all being invited to, it is about a level of intentionality and slowing down a bit to speed up with what you're doing. So it's a little lens check that you can do on what you're putting out of how much would this impact my life and my heart if I read it? Would this dazzle me, or would I be yawning and bored and on to the next thing, right? So it's a good lens check you can use. So let me just pause and check comments. If we have questions on building a brand, again, I am super available for the more tactical things. If you have questions on that, I coach that, I teach that all the time. But I wanted to really give you what I think are some of the biggest needle movers that will help you grow your brand, regardless of your industry, regardless of your platform. And regardless of whether you're just starting out or you've been doing it for some time. Even if you've been doing it for some time, it can get routine. We can hit those plateaus. And if you take this and apply these 3 things to it, I have a strong 100% gut feeling you will break out of any sort of slump or plateau. Hi, Torald. Good evening. Great to see you. So again, number 1, raise your level of consciousness. Remember that Einstein quote: we can't resolve a problem from the same level of consciousness that created the problem. Number 2, don't be afraid to go after what you want. See yourself at, what's the quote? I wish I could see myself as my dog sees me, or I want to be the person my dog sees me as, right? But actually start seeing yourself for how incredible you are, and pitch yourself for opportunities as such, or have someone who's on your team pitch you for those bigger opportunities. And then 3, intentionality. Thank you so much for the heart. Are you checking a box, or are you truly creating from the heart? Amy is saying, needle mover when you're repositioning and up leveling. What packs the biggest impact most quickly? Ooh, I like that. Needle mover when you're repositioning and up leveling. What packs the biggest impact most? So I'll say, Amy, from just I guess when you say what packs the biggest punch and moves the needle the most, are you talking about in terms of brand growth? Are you talking about in terms of revenue growth? Because sometimes it kind of depends on what we're looking for, right? Maybe give me a little more context. One thing I will say so if you're repositioning, and I've done that a few times, again, I really think it's what is on your heart right now, brand and revenue and image. It's checking, to me, the thing that is in the core of your soul that this is just what's coming through for you. You may be afraid to say it. It may feel scary. It may feel like, I've never positioned my brand in this way before. What are people going to think of me? Who am I to go out there and talk about this message or do things in this way? You have to trust that when it comes from the depths of your soul and it's kind of peeling back the layers of who you think you're supposed to be in order to be approved of by other people, but it's you showing the real you and speaking that message that's on your heart in a more powerful way than ever. That's what's going to do it. And that's beyond the platform. That's beyond is it Instagram? Is it YouTube? Whatever. It's that. I hope that just came through for you. So I hope that speaks to you. Amy's saying, okay, good. So, and that's to me, that's universal, right? But that was the message that came through very strongly for you in that. So I'm excited to see how you're repositioning, and I'm excited to see what that looks like. Yeah, absolutely. Good. Okay, good, good. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Let me check comments. Okay, beautiful. So that is it, my friends. Go check out episode 146 of She Sells Radio. Thank you for the hearts. If you want a deeper dive into building content that's there for the long game, that's going to expand you, that's going to get people to stop and say, I need more of this in my life. And then just a quick invitation, I'll also say on my heart recently has been, I feel very called to work with another private coaching client. And so if you're interested in a very large container of support, if you've got big goals for expansion this year, if you desire, whether it's you want to hit 7 figures this year, or you just really desire that, like, it's time to make some big changes, it's time to up level in some big ways, both financially and in all ways, shoot me a DM. I'm happy to send you the application for private coaching. And I am also I'm so available for any questions you have. Any way I can help and support, send me a DM. Oh, Torald saying, thank you. I need this. I've been given a golden opportunity to host a session in corporate. That's amazing. Oh, Torald, well, beautiful. And reframe saying, I'm nervous. I totally hear you on that. I would switch it to, I'm excited. I'm so excited. And flip the script on it a little bit. And you'll notice even just in that flip of the language, it'll make an impact as well. So, oh, you're so welcome, Amy. Beautiful. Oh, Holly, I see you're just joining. It's good to see you. We're just wrapping up. You can go back and watch the beginning of this, all about how to build your personal brand in 2022. Wishing everyone, yes, I'm excited, Terrell. That's right. Wishing everyone a great week. I will see you next Monday's Memorial Day. I'll probably still see you next Monday. I will see you next Monday. All right, everyone. You're so welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Have a great rest of your day. Bye for now.